This lecture is about the second part we are going to now discuss, that is connected with Freud and his contemporaries. Understanding psychosexual stages identified by Freud are helpful to psychotherapists and counselors to understand the subject of psychology. Refer to pages 10, 11 and 12 of your notes to get details of the developmental stages explained by Freud. Erikson's psychosocial perspective, his perception includes Freud's psychosexual content, but extends to include psychosocial aspects of development. So he goes beyond 6 years of life of a person. As you can refer to the table given on the pages 10, 11 and 12, Erikson differs from Freud's views of considering the development of personality halts after the age of 6 years. He postulated that development of personality continues beyond the age 6. His focus of ego, which serves as striving for mastery and commonplace, being active for entire human life. So according to Erikson, the development of personality does not just stop at 6 years of life, it continues for the entire life. His theory came to be known as ego psychology. It deals with early and later developmental stages. Main contention is that current problems cannot simply be reduced to understanding of the first 6 years of life. Actually, it cannot simply be reduced to the unconscious level of conflicts for early childhood and the later stages of adolescence, mid-adulthood and later adulthood, also significantly in the personality formation. So they also contribute very importantly in the later stages of development, and its projection is seen in the total personality of the person after the age of 6 as the person grows older. No stage of development exists independently of other stages. Very often they develop and interact, they are also interrelated. So it is not that one stage what we see as adolescence just ends with adolescence. It may overflow, it may go into the middle stages also. He did admit to Freud's views about the first 6 years of life playing a significant role in formation of basis of personality pattern. Some of the problems showing the initial signs of problems can develop into future serious problems that counselors will have to deal with. Please refer to your page 15 of the notes and particularly understand what all things are happening at the latency stage. Answers and questions given on page 17 for personality as converted by Erikson is given on page 15 of your notes. So I would like you to refer to them and understand how the stages of development are explained by Freud in the beginning and then carried on further by Erikson till the middle age as well as the later ages. Now let's see something about Carl Jung, and in his theory we see that he has also agreed to Freud. He worked with Freudian theories, and he beginning and then separated from him because he developed his own theory of psychotherapy. He places central importance on the psychological changes that are associated with middle age. He himself learnt a lot in his own middle age, which he has incorporated in postulating his theory. According to him, we need to let go of many of the values and behavior that we have imbibed into the first half of the life, and we have to let them go in the middle ages because we come across new problems and new types of thinking has to be incorporated in our thought process also. So there were inhibitions in the first half of our life. We will be required to confront over the unconscious part of our mind, which is possible by paying attention to the messages of our dreams and by engaging interactive activities like writing and painting, etc. So this is what Jung has propagated and postulated, that we need to change our lifestyles and we need to concentrate on something which would be creatively contributing to our personality. We cannot be fixated to the adolescent period or the developing period in the middle ages, but we have to also try and change our thinking as per the requirement of our environment. Person should try to shift attention from rational thoughts to unconscious forces and integrate them into our conscious life. So whatever we have got into our unconscious, now through dreams and with the help of the counselor, they can be brought to the surface, and once they are on surface and the person understands, these forces can play a very important role in changing the lifestyle and changing the thought processes, changing the behavior of the person, which can be integrated into his personality. Jung had worked with Freud and did value many of his contributions, but differed from his sexual theory and separated from Freud. He believed that people do have beyond their past toward self-actualization and the fulfillment of their hidden or latent capacities. Jung's theory postulates accepting both forces in human beings. The constructive and destructive forces become integrated. So he believes that we are not just constructive force or the negatively the destructive forces. Both these forces are a part of our personality, and the success of a person and the more balanced personality of an individual will be depending on how he can integrate both these forces, the negative and the positive. This understanding helps the person to overcome his primitive impulses and works more towards his growth. Let's see in brief what Margaret Mahler had to contribute. Proposed view that formed basis for recent psychoanalytical thoughts that are deviating from Freudian thoughts. These are based on her study of children. While working as a pediatrician, according to her, the psychological development takes place in 4 broad stages. She conceptualized Freud's psychosexual stages of personality development differently. Now we can refer to the pages number 20 here. Try to read about Margaret Miller's theory and what are the 4 stages that she has postulated. To understand Miller's concept of psychological development in early childhood, it is interesting to learn how the field of psychological treatments has developed to reach its present state. So, at the moment, the psychological state of psychoanalysis and psychoanalytical studies has gone far beyond Freud's way of thinking and treatments, and it has added a lot of new thoughts to it, which we have tried to incorporate in your notes. So you can go through them and you will understand the current situation where Freud's theory of psychoanalysis stands. Psychoanalytical process stresses maintaining the particular framework, that is, it is aimed at accomplishing the goals of the therapy, like analyst's relative anonymity. The analyst does not reveal his own personal views and ideas, thoughts, his background, his family connections, etc. So he remains anonymous to the patient, and as much as possible this should be maintained so the patient is not influenced in his when he is expressing himself during the free association. Regular and consistent meetings. So the analysis does not end with just 1 or 2 meetings, or it's a very lengthy process. So one has to meet regularly, and this kind of regularity and the insistence on it from the counselor is, or the therapist is, quite essential to bring about the basic changes and the changes in the thought processes of the patient. Starting and ending sessions are on time. That means the discipline is integrated in the analytical process. Analysis also needs to submit to these patterns. Process of free association. So this is one of the important aspects of psychoanalysis. So we just see that in detail. This plays an important role in the process of psychoanalytical studies and process treatment. Clients are more comfortable, they lie down on a couch and analyst sits behind them out of their sight. This is the traditional psychoanalytical sessions setup, where the analyst is not in view of the client, who is made to feel comfortable lying down on the couch. In modern setup, the couch may be eliminated. Clients is encouraged to talk freely whatever comes to their mind, and the analyst identifies the repressed material, unlocking the unconscious. So when they are expressing themselves in the free association, the analyst's sight, analyst's focus is on finding out what are the unconscious processes the patient experiences. The sequence of associations guides therapists to recognize the underlying thread of thoughts and reveal the suppressed material. So one has to be in the psychoanalytical session for almost an hour, and remember this has to be carried out quite frequently. So sometimes it is twice a week, or even in the beginning 3 times a week, and this will be making the client go deeper into his thinking, and as he gets comfortable with himself and with the process of psychoanalysis, his repressed material starts expressing itself. And the focus of the analyst will be on try and reveal this suppressed material and try and get an insight which he can pass on to the client. And reveal the suppressed material, analyst then interprets the observed material. So once the client is ready, being ready is very, very important in analysis or even in other processes where we do not follow very strictly the free association method, the methods which are followed for other theories also. Thus, interpreting it, this increases the client's understanding about self and develops his insight. Once known the source of problem, because most of the problems, the roots are in the unconscious part of the mind. So once this insight comes in, the client starts seeing from where the problem had started. Once known the source of problem, the client decides and gets the courage to correct thinking, and then he can re-subject his behavior. He can also change his behavior accordingly, and this actually very casually it happens. Normally it happens, client does not even have to try to do it or think and plan and do it. It just happens automatically. With the new knowledge, the changes are coming in very, very comfortably and easily. The analyst pays attention to the hidden meaning and thoughts behind the client's words. He also pays attention to details like slip of tongue, words used, and underlying hidden content. This awareness of the language of the unconscious has to bear, and it has been often termed as listening with the third ear. Nothing is taken for at the face value. Assertiveness and areas avoided by the client are also considered significant. After the early resistance to expressing thoughts, clients gain more confidence in opening up to the therapist, because there is a rapport built between the client and the therapist. The client starts trusting the therapist, and then he gets more courage to open up and also reveal whatever was so far suppressed in his mind. Now let's see the importance of interpretation. This consists of analysts pointing out, explaining, and sometimes teaching the clients the meaning of the behavior manifested in their dreams, free association, resistances, and the therapeutic material. The function of interpretation is to all the client's ego, to understand where the client's ego is struggling to assimilate new material, resulting in revealing further the unconscious material. So once this layer, which is keeping the unconscious part suppressed, is cracked, and the client is ready to reveal the suppressed material, not only to the analyst but also to himself, then he can really go deeper into his unconscious, understand what are the processes that are hidden there, and they are actually hindering his progress, his improving his relationships, improving his own personality, improving his own courage and confidence will be set aside, and he will be able to then come out with his real strength. Clients must be ready to receive therapist interpretation. Now this is very important. Untimely attempt to interpret may be rejected by the client. It will help to point out resistance or difference before interpreting the suppressed emotions and conflicts that has beneath it and beneath the unconscious. So when the client is ready, then only the analyst will attempt to interpret, and then only it will be accepted by the client. So this is the point which is very important to reach, and it takes time for the client to reach that stage where he is ready to receive the interpretations by the analyst. Now let's see what is the importance of resistance and how it works in this process. Resistance is anything that works against the progress of therapy. This refers to any idea, attitude, feeling of action, conscious or unconscious, that actually interferes with therapeutic process. Freud's views of resistances as an unconscious behavior. That proper use of resistance can be used to defend against the intolerable anxiety and pain that the client will have to tolerate and face if they become aware of their repressed impulses, feelings and wishes. So what is repressed? The repressed material is something which the client is afraid to face. He is not ready to accept it as a part of himself. Actually, some clients are so very surprised when they get this insight and they know that these are the feelings they have been harboring right from the very childhood, and now they are ready to face it because they now know how it is interfering with his current life, with his present situation, and how it is hindering his progress. So this is what is the part that has been kept under resistance, and it is very important for the analyst or the therapist to may help the client, to make the client overcome these resistances if there has to be any improvement. If they become aware of their repressed impulses, feelings and wishes, this works against therapy, preventing client from becoming aware and bringing up unconscious to consciousness. That will cause the change. So whatever is repressed in the unconscious has to come out to the conscious level to be able to bring about the change in the client's behavior. Once the resistance is overcome, the client becomes free of inhibiting factors. This will lead to overcoming the problem, conflicts are resolved, and solution to problem is found. This leads to living more gratifying life for the client. It makes a lot of difference in his personality, as well as it can also help the client to remain not only mentally healthy, but it also transcends into his physical health, and he is able to face realities of life with more courage. If handled properly, resistance can be one of the most valuable tools in understanding the client. Now let's see what is transference and how it works in the process of psychoanalysis. Here the client reacts to their therapist as did to a significant person. So whoever was significant in the client's life, the client tries to project that person into the analyst. This is valuable as it helps the client to re-experience a variety of feelings that has molded his personality and becomes accessible. For example, the client might project his very strict father over to his analyst or the counselor or the therapist and see him as a strict father, and he starts behaving towards the analyst as if he was acting and reacting to that strict father. Now the analyst's more understanding behavior and response to this kind of behavior and the projection of the client is going to bring about more of understanding about his own reaction to his father, and also the understanding that all authoritative males are not of the same kind. They can be also understanding, they can be compassionate, they can be helpful. So this kind of understanding coming through the transference is going to bring about a very important change in the client's behavior and the way he sees authorities, and his life is definitely going to be influenced by this. In transference situation, client expresses feelings, beliefs, distress and his desires that are buried in his unconscious. Through interpretations and working through some of these current expressions of early feelings, clients are able to change some of their long-standing patterns of behavior. So this they may be carrying from very early age, also going through the adolescence, middle adult life, etc. So it is now going to bring about the change. Transference is an important technique in psychoanalysis which helps clients to achieve here and now insight. Not what was happening when you were maybe 10, 12 or 15 years old, but what is happening to you today. Today you are not that age and you need to grow out of that feeling. Maybe you are stronger than your father, maybe more educated, maybe more successful. So all these things matter now. You can't be living some 20 years back or 25-year back situation. So you need to bring about that change, and that understanding comes through this transference technique. So, into the effect of past conflicts in the current situation, working through and then resolves fixated emotional behavior and more towards the emotional growth. So we are then achieving the emotional growth which the client has experienced and harbored for so many years. No one has ever challenged him. Now in the process of psychoanalysis, he is getting challenged. He is challenging himself. He is trying to find out what is buried and suppressed into his unconscious mind. Now students are suggested to read up the examples given on page 31 on your notes, which would help you to understand how unconscious wishes, desires and thoughts fixated from childhood into the unconscious directs the present behavior. So this will give you also some insight into the way how psychoanalysis helps to overcome these repressed material in the unconscious which is still interfering with your personality and your growth. Now let's see a small understanding about the dream analysis. Dream analysis is an important way to get access to the unconscious mind. Unconscious is suppressed most of the time, but dreams, when you are sleeping and the resistances are low, your conscious resistances are low over your mind, the unconscious tries to express itself through dreams. Dreams are mostly made up of symbols. Freud describes dreams as royal road to the unconscious. Dreams reveal hidden wishes, needs, fears, desires, feelings, etc. Two layers of dreams are expressed as the latent content and the manifest content. Freud's work is through his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, and I would suggest that all of you can have a copy of it, which is very easily available now. The Interpretation of Dreams is recommended for detailed understanding. Note that Jung interprets things and in a different way, and the dreams in his theory are differently interpreted. A short note about that is also mentioned in your notes. This ends our today's discussion about Freud's remaining part of the chapter, and I hope that you will go through it. You will be able to solve the assignments that are attached to the notes, and you are required to send it back to us via email within 15 days of receiving this chapter. Thank you very much and wish you all the best. Please take care.